the Bible, not just by reading it, but by watching and how it's lived out in our lives. So for the next few minutes, we want to invite you just to listen and enter into the passion of Jesus. From John's Gospel in chapter 19, beginning in verse 17. And so they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew means Golgotha. And there they crucified him. And with him, 2 others, one on each side of him, with Jesus between him. Pilate also had an inscription written that read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Now many of the Jews saw the inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. Then the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, do not write the King of the Jews, but this man said he is the King of the Jews. And Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written. When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothing and tore it into 4 pieces, one for each of them. And they also took his tunic. Now his tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. So they said to one another, let us not tear it, but cast lots to see who will get it. Now this was to fulfill what the scripture said. They will divide my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they will cast lots. And that is what the soldiers did. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus was Jesus' mother, his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. And when Jesus saw his mother standing beside the disciple whom he loved, he said, woman, here is your son. And then he said to the disciple, here is your mother. And from that hour on, he took her into his home. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scriptures, I am thirsty. And so he took a jar, so that standing nearby was a jar of sour wine. And they took a sponge and filled it with the wine and put it on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. And when he had received the wine, he said, it is finished. And then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Since it was the day of preparation, the Jews did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, especially since the Sabbath was a day of great solemnity. So they asked Pilate to have the legs of the crucified men broken and the bodies removed. Then the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers came and pierced his side with a spear, and at once blood and water came out. He who saw this testified so that you might also believe. What he says is true, and he knows that he tells the truth. All of this occurred so that the scriptures might be fulfilled. None of his bones shall be broken. And again, another scripture says, they shall look upon one whom they have pierced. After all of this, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though in secret, because of fear of the Jews, came and went and asked Pilate if he could take away the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave him permission. And so he came and removed the body. Nicodemus, who also had at first come to Jesus by night, also came, and bringing with him a mixture of myrrh and aloes weighing about 100 pounds. And they took Jesus and wrapped him with the spices and linen cloth according to the burial custom of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where Jesus was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb where no one had been laid. And so, since it was the day of preparation and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.